Hi, James and Mitchell here, and we are about to embark on another Look with the Lenormand, which is my video series in which I honor a viewer with their request for a Lenormand reading. And so our reading today is for Michelle, and I have to say first that I'm very excited about doing this particular reading because Michelle has been very key into what it is that I'm doing with the Lenormand in terms of these videos. For those of you who know that when I started doing my Lenormand videos, I did it on a lark. I have been reading tarot for 17 years now, and I was doing a weekly series called Your Week in Tarot, and for a 1 week I decided I was going to give tarot a break and use a Lenormand, and in that video I asked people if they would be interested in seeing more of these types of videos. And Michelle was the first person to say absolutely yes. And so Michelle has been very encouraging. She has been very supportive, and she watches every single video. She likes every single video. She always leaves me a wonderful comment. And so when she sent in this request for a reading, I was so excited to do it. So I first wanted to acknowledge Michelle and say, Michelle, thank you for all your encouragement and your support. It means so much to me because you were the first. It wouldn't be what it is now if it wasn't for you saying, yes, I want to see more. So you got the ball rolling, so I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have no idea how important you are to me. So I just want to say thank you for that, and that it's an honor to do this reading for you. Okay, so now we're going to go to her question, and I'm going to read it from my phone. So this was Michelle's request. Dear James, first off, she wanted to say something nice. First of all, I want to thank you again for your really inspiring consciousness expanding readings. As I already told you in my comments, I am very glad to have found your channel on YouTube. Thank you, Michelle. That really means a lot. So she says, in your last reading, you asked your viewers to give you a subject for a 5-card reading for your YouTube channel. So I would like to assume your offer. And then she says, I hope I can express it in spite of my little English, because Michelle is in another part of the world. So, but her English is very good. Michelle, your English is quite good, so don't give that a second thought. But here's her situation. I began a promotion offer for the expansion of my business, and her business, by the way, is personality development coaching, and especially for the renewal of my clientele from a big organization. And as a result, this organization demanded a large price reduction of a certain amount for their consultations, which she says is okay with her per se. But anyway, she's not sure if she should accept the offer. So the question really is, should I accept this offer? So here's another part I want to make a point on, and this is significant. She says, of course, I already looked in my own cards, but as you surely know, we often have a blind spot regarding our own questions. So I would like to know what your cards have to say. And thank you for all your work and inspiration, love and light, Michelle. So Michelle brings up a very good point that I can't dismiss. She is also quite an accomplished Lenormand card reader. So she's already looked at her own cards about the situation and still felt the need to reach out. So this is important if you read your own cards, and I can't stress this enough. When you're seeking outside guidance from another person, like Michelle is seeking it from me in this particular case, my role in this is just to give her information that's meant to complement the other information that she's already received in her own reading. This reading for Michelle is by no means meant to negate the information that she has already received. I'm a big believer in trusting our own guidance first and then seeking outside guidance. But even when you do that, it's not at the expense of your own guidance. It's to help complement what it is that you've already gotten. So Michelle, having said that, know that the information I'm providing for you today is meant to enhance or complement the information that you've already received from the cards. So having said that, we're going to take your question and we're going to go right to the table. All right, Michelle, here we are at the table with the cards on the table, and for this reading I'm going to be using a deck I just got, so I'm breaking it in with you. And the deck we're going to be using is the Mystical Lenormand. I got it over the weekend, and even though it was a holiday weekend here in the States, the deck arrived on a Sunday. So I know that's some sort of divine indication, some divine intervention, something of the divine, for a deck to arrive on Sunday of a holiday weekend. So I'm taking the deck in hand, and I'm going to be focusing on your question about whether or not you should accept the offer with this organization. And one more time this way. And now I'm going to cut the deck into 3 piles. Put them back together. And then fan the cards out. And then I'm going to pick 5 as I feel led. And that's going to be our 5. All right, Michelle. Here we are at the table with your cards, your line of 5. I've shuffled, cut, and dealt the cards, and I've already put them in the line. So as you know, I usually start my line of 5 readings with the middle card, because the middle card is going to tell us what the focus is. And keeping in mind, I'm reading the cards in context to your question about whether you should accept the offer to do your personality coaching with this large organization. So the first card here is the Sun. And as you know, Michelle, being a Lenormand card reader, the Sun is the best card in the deck. So right here, the focus is on clarity, because in keeping in the context with your question, you asked, should you accept the offer or not? So you're seeking clarity about that. But this card is also about positive energy. It's also about illumination. One of the chief meanings of the Sun card is success. So if I were to just answer your question with this one card, it would be yes, because that is how positive the Sun is. But we'll look at that. So really, besides the idea of whether you should accept the offer or not, it may be also to keeping in the mind of like being successful with the endeavor. There may be an underlying question about whether it's going to be successful or not. This card would suggest yes, it would be. And maybe about your level of confidence in terms of providing this service. You said you worked with the company before, so I don't really see that as being a challenge for you. I'm looking at the card, and I know this isn't a Lenormand technique, but the Mystical Lenormand is very fascinating in that it has additional visual information. And this card here at the bottom has camels walking across the sand with pyramids in the background. So I'm seeing that whole desert Egyptian kind of motif going on there. And it makes me think about the climate. Whenever I think of things Egyptian, the word climate always comes to my mind. So there may be something about the climate of the company that you might want to consider seeking some more clarity or illumination about. So I'm seeing that. Great first card. Okay, so now you know we're going to turn over the rest of the cards going from left to right, starting with the first card. Okay, so now I'm really into this, so I'm stopping here. So your first card here is the Tower. So now you know that the Tower can represent large companies and large organizations, so that fits with the situation that's going on. Also, too, this card would be appropriate in light of the fact that you said you're seeking to expand your business. So this would be about expansion of your own business, because for me, the Tower card can represent freelance activity or freelance work. or something that you do independently. So even with that, you might want to be clear on what exactly is your role in the company. Are you going to be still considered freelance and they contract you out like you're a subcontractor, or are you going to actually become employed by the company and work within the company? So that might be something you want to consider, because the Tower card, as you know, is also about isolation. So it could suggest that you working on your own is something that you're very set on, or you're very adamant about, or it's something you enjoy, and so you may want to be sure that you get to keep it that way. I'm looking at the woman in the window of the tower, and so it could just represent on some level being in a place of autonomy and you wanting to be your own boss, and so making sure that that is something that is still being honored. So that's a tower. The next card is the heart. And so now the heart represents passion, it represents love, it represents caring about what you do. So I'm seeing this card says that as far as the idea of the personality development coaching, that you actually love the work, you care about it, and that you're enthusiastic about it. So that's a positive sign there. Over on the other side of the sun, we have the moon. So now the moon is a career card. So I like this. This is very positive in terms of asking yourself, if you were to say yes, going with the sun, if you were to say yes, how would this impact or affect your reputation, your career? Because the sun card is coming before the moon card. So I'm looking at it as like, what is this going to do for your career after you say yes? If you were to say yes, how would this affect your career? Where do you see your career going? How is this going to help you in the long term? Also, too, I'm looking at the pair of the sun and the moon, and they, for me, represent night and day. So it could suggest that even though the sun is offering for your consideration, saying yes to the offer, you still might be going back and forth on it, or you might want to give yourself at least a day, because the pair represents a full 24 hours. You might want to consider giving yourself another day to think things over or to become more clear. And then the final card is the clouds. So now, even though I've said everything about the 4 cards in the line, the clouds is the last card, and it can represent confusion, uncertainty, and doubt. So even though you're asking the question, and even though you've read your cards, and even after I finish this reading, you still might have some uncertainty or doubt. And so that's why I'm saying, if that's the case, then maybe give yourself another day with the sun and the moon coming before the clouds to make a decision. And so, as you know, I look at the pairs. So I look at the pair immediately flanking the sun card. So we have, again, we have the heart and we have the moon. And so this pair for me is about recognizing, going with the moon, what it is that you're passionate about. This could also be about loving or being passionate about, going with the heart, your career. And so that may be part of your coaching, would be to help people become more enthusiastic or more passionate about what their work is. I sometimes see the moon as a vocation or calling card. So it could be like you helping them become more passionate or more enthusiastic, or getting their heart on fire with the visual on the heart card about what it is that they are doing in terms of work and in terms of their long-term career, whether they stay with the organization or not. You're getting them to become more aware of what it is that they want to do, professionally speaking. But again, keep in mind too that the pair is also asking you in terms of, are you passionate about your career? Are you passionate about your reputation? Are you passionate about what it is that you feel you're called to do? So keep that in mind. I'm looking at this as a twofold situation here. So that could be as for the other people that you're going to be working with, but also for you. Keep that in mind too. So now we have the pair of the tower and the clouds. And so for me, I'm seeing this as maybe a little doubt or uncertainty about the company, or a little doubt or uncertainty about your role in the company. I'm seeing this in terms of the idea of you maintaining your sense of individuality, your sense of autonomy. So if there is any doubts about that, if there's any lingering doubts you have about taking the offer, what are they, and how can you talk about that with the company in question? The other thing about this pairing is sometimes I see the tower as, the head of a company, somebody who's in charge, and it's even magnified so with the clouds, because the inset in terms of playing cards, which this deck doesn't have it on here, but the clouds has an inset of the King of Clubs, and so for me that represents the CEO of a company. So there could be some doubt or some uncertainty from the powers that be, the people at the top, and if so, what are those? What would be the things that you need to have cleared up with the clouds that would make it either clear for you to say yes or no one way or the other and be okay with that? So that's what I'm seeing with this pair. Then we look at the pair coming before the Sun, our focus card, and we have the Tower and the Heart. So for me, this is about, loving, caring, and being passionate about the company, both the organization and your own company. Are you really that passionate about expanding your business? Or are you really in love with the idea of the isolation factor or the separation factor of the tower? And again, that to me strikes about your autonomy, the idea about loving your freedom and loving to do whatever it is that you want to do and not having to answer to somebody else. So here is about becoming more clear on what it is that you really are passionate about. And that would be the place to make your decision. The Heart is all about matters of the heart. So it's about, how do you feel about the situation? Do you love the idea of working for this organization? Do you love the idea of expanding your own business? Do you love the idea of the offer being presented to you? Because I know in your situation there is that concern about the price reduction, and you say that it's okay with you, but is it really? And if not, then what would you be willing to do to make that okay? But that's what I'm seeing with this pair. It's about you getting to really be in touch with, how do you feel about the company? How do you feel about expanding your company? And how do you feel about the idea of continuing to be autonomous and continuing to be in charge of your own affairs and the things that you do within your business? I guess I'm just looking at how much control, for lack of a better word, is the company going to have over what you do and how you do it. And then on the other side of the Sun, we have the Moon and the clouds. And so that for me represents any kind of lingering doubt, going again with the clouds being about confusion, uncertainty, and doubt. Any lingering doubts about the work that you're going to be doing. If there is maybe a possibility of uncertainty about how your work within the company is going to be recognized, because the Moon is all about recognition and reputation. Again, the question becomes how do you see accepting this offer in terms of what it's going to do not only for your company, but your reputation in terms of the service that you provide, in terms of the coaching, I would say. So, that's what I'm seeing with this pairing. Okay, so now we could also look at the central card and the pair of the Tower and the Sun, and this would be going with success. This would be freelance work that becomes successful, or the work that you do with the company leading to success. The company seems to me, with the idea of offering this situation to you, would be that it's designed to be focused on its own success, and you coming in to offer this coaching would be designed to help this organization and the people who work within it to be more successful and more confident in what it is they do. But it's twofold. The work that you provide for the people in the organization, you're also providing for yourself. You as a card reader, you know, and the sun, this is about conscious awareness. And as you become more conscious, you know that the things that we offer out into the world for other people are the exact thing that we need for ourselves. So as you help that company become successful, you become successful. And then the very flip side of that, going with the outer pair here of the clouds and then this focus card of the sun, this could be not being sure about your own ability to be successful in this, or there may be some doubt from the powers that be, going with the idea that this is the King of Clubs, about the success that you could deliver. If there's any doubts about that, then it would be, how can you help clear that up? Now, even though the dark side of the clouds is coming near the sun is so powerful that it can outshine this. So this pair could just represent light at the end of the tunnel. So even though you may still be in doubt, that the sun card says you will get the clarity, you will become illuminated, you will become enlightened on in terms of what it is that you need to do, and whether you should accept the offer or not. So I'm seeing that, but this is a positive card set in terms of light at the end of the tunnel. And so now, as you know, at this point, Michelle, we've gone through the 5 cards, so now we're going to do my hidden dynamics technique to see what additional information that we can get from the playing cards that are normally associated with this deck. They're not on here, but I've been working with Lenormand long enough to have them somewhat committed to memory, so we're going to get to that portion right now. All right, Michelle, and now we're going to do what I call the hidden dynamics, and that is a technique that utilizes the pips or the playing card inserts that are normally associated with the Lenormand. The Mystical Lenormand, which is the deck that's on the table, is not one that has those inserts, but I do have these particular cards committed to memory, so I can still go ahead and do this technique. So, going from left to right, the inserts would be for these cards. On the Tower, it would be the 6 of Spades. For the Heart, it would be the Jack of Hearts. For the Sun, it would be the Ace of Diamonds. For the Moon, it would be the 8 of Hearts. And for the Clouds, it would be, like I said previously, it would be the King of Clubs. So the first thing that jumps out at me is that we have 2 cards from the suit of Hearts. So again, it goes right back to what I said about the heart in the previous section. Would be like making sure that you check how you feel about the situation, because hearts represent our emotions, our feelings, things of that nature, but also to consider the idea of how this expansion, accepting this offer, how is that going to affect your home life? Because sometimes the suit of hearts in cartomancy can represent one's domestic affairs. So since I'm seeing that as the ruling suit, I couldn't help but point that out for your consideration. Okay, so what we do for the hidden dynamics is we take first the pips from the outer cards. So like I said, the Tower is 6 for the 6 of Spades, and then the King of Clubs from the Clouds is 13, because in cartomancy, kings are 13. We add those together and we get 19. So 19 is already in the line because the 19th card is the Tower. So again, one of the things, going back to everything that's been said, is it pertains to the organization itself. It also pertains to how you want to expand your business. Is this the best way that you want to expand your business? So that's one side of that. And also about the whole idea about freelance work and being clear on what's going to be your position within the company in this regard. Are you going to still be autonomous? Are you still going to be freelance and working for yourself and outside of the company, and you're contracted to perform this service? Or is the company going to employ you and bring you in as an employee? So I'm seeing something of that nature with that. So then we go with the inner pips to see what the other side of the dynamic might be. So again, the Jack is 11 because Jacks in cartomancy are valued at 11. And then the 8 of Hearts is 19. So Both sides of the dynamic are the tower, which is 19. So again, the other thing I could think of that I haven't talked about with the tower yet would be about things like policies and procedures and rules and regulations and things being made official. So I'm seeing that with the tower. So I hadn't touched on that before, but it just popped out at me because it's very interesting when both sides of the dynamic are the same card. So again, I'm thinking on the one side, it's all about the organization and meeting the organization's needs, but at the same point in time, also recognizing that you have needs too and honoring those as well. Going back with the moon card is all about recognition and honoring something. So making sure that you, as you honor the company, that the company also honors you and your needs. Another thing we can do is we can take the pips from all the cards and add them together to see what additional information can be offered by the card that total would give to us. So we have the 6, we have 11, we have 1, we have 8, and we have 13. And that is 39. And so as you know, the Lenormand deck only has 36 cards. So what we do is we look for the card that is the sum of adding the 2 digits together when they're over 36. So 3 and 9 is 12. And so the 12th card in the deck is the owls. In this deck, it's the owls. Sometimes it's known as the birds. So the owls, for me, says it's important that a conversation or some form of communication takes place. This is a very important issue or concern. So any lingering things that you still may be doubtful about with the clouds, you could consider having a conversation that would help clear that up. The other thing about the owls for me is about how this coaching is going to be offered. One of the things the owls can suggest would be coaching by the phone. I know when I started my coaching practice, that is how I offered it, but the universe presented it to me in a different way. When I suggested phone consultations with my clients, a majority of them wanted to do their coaching in person. So I'm seeing that, with the 2 owls, coaching is about a partnership. So you're creating a partnership. And here's the thing that you might want to consider with that. When you are coaching individuals, which could be the owls because you're having a one-to-one conversation with them, how much does the organization need to know in terms of the content of those conversations? And you have to consider, because coaching is normally a process where confidentiality is key. And here it would be, how do you manage that within an organization? And the only way I could think that you could consider that would be looking at who's actually paying you. And if the organization's paying you, well, then that might need to be negotiated with the people that you're coaching individually. I don't know how the process is going to be for you, but that's something that just popped out at me, and so I couldn't help but to talk about that. The other thing about the owls that I want to offer for your consideration is that this is a card that can sometimes represent negotiating something. So it could be like, in terms of the agreement, it's important for you to negotiate those things. And again, it brings me back to the part of your message in which you said about the price reduction and it being okay per se. That might be some room for conversation or discussion or negotiation that you might want to consider. The other side of the owls is asking you to consider the emotional, going back to the heart representing matters of the heart and how we feel about things. How is this process going to make you feel? Because sometimes the owls can represent something that's frustrating us, something that we're nervous about or anxious about. So, but I'm looking at in terms of frustration. And so I just couldn't ignore that. You might want to consider, how is this process going to be frustrating me, and giving yourself the opportunity to work through that before you engage in the process. But again, the biggest thing I'm seeing is about maybe negotiating the terms of your agreement. You know, you said you worked with the company before, so there's a foundation there, and there may be room for a conversation to really look at the terms of your agreement and see if they're still mutual, you know, or if it's still beneficial, I should say, for both parties involved, which means you and the organization. So I'm seeing that. And then the final thing we can do, Michelle, and I know you love this part, is that we can take the numerical value from all the cards and add them across to see what final card is being offered to us to kind of wrap up this reading. So the Tower is 19, the Heart is 24, the Sun is 31, the Moon is 32, and the Clouds is 6. So that brings us to 112. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 112 and add it all the way across, because again, it's over 36. So 1 plus 1 plus 2 is 4. And that brings us to the fourth card in the deck, which is the House. And so the House is interesting in this regard. The House makes me feel a couple of things. Number one, first off, this is a card about security and stability. So it's about what would you need to have for yourself in regards of this offer and presenting this work to this organization that would make you feel more stable and secure. The other thing about the House for me, in terms of, this is a card that for me can represent small business. So I find it interesting that this card would show up and that your goal, or you have it in mind that you want to expand your business, which is the Tower. So again, this is saying this might be something that affords you the opportunity to do that. The other thing about the House for you is that this card for me, it represents the foundation being laid here, because a house rests on a foundation. So it could be like the foundation's already there for you to go in and do this work. That's the other thing about it. The other thing about the House that you might want to consider is, how would taking this project on, or working with this organization, how would that affect your home life? Because the House is all about one's home life, one's personal life. So how would that play a role or affect your personal life? Now, in terms of what I said about maybe still being on the fence about making up your mind with the Clouds, I'm looking at the image on the card, and there's a peacock walking across the front of the house. For me, that represents revelation. And so I want to say to you, it's that this card could suggest that you're looking for a sign, some sort of revelation to come where you are at, meaning like your home, and present itself to you that would allow you to know one way or the other, to be sure whether you should say yes or not. So again, the House is all about the foundation being laid. It's about your home life and how this opportunity might affect that. It's also about your own business and wanting to expand it, because this card represents a small business, and waiting for a sign. So, and again, this is about comfort level too. I want to say, so it's about you being comfortable with the arrangement. That's the other thing I couldn't leave out. You being comfortable with the arrangement. So those are your cards, Michelle. Again, summing up, we have the Tower. I see this as the organization itself, the company. I also see this as your desire to expand your business. But at the same point in time, I see this as a need to hold on to your autonomy, your ability to be in charge of the process and doing what it is you do. So be mindful of talking about the rules, the regulations, the policies, things of that nature. The Heart, how do you really feel about the situation? Is your heart on fire for it? Are you passionate about it? Do you care about it? Do you care about the company? Do you care about your business? You know, do you care about how these things might alter your life as it is right now? The Sun card, again, this is about positive energy. It's also about confidence. It's about success. If we only had this one card on the table to answer your question, it would be a strong yes. So, but again, I'm seeing this as, you know, checking in with how do you feel about the climate of the company, things of that nature. the moon, it's all about your career. I'm seeing this as your career taking off after a period of success, because the moon card comes after the sun card. Again, this is about you looking at making sure that you are being honored in this agreement, that how is it going to affect your career? How is it going to expand your career? What is this offer going to do for your career? And then the clouds being at the end of the line, I can't dismiss that it's a challenging card. So again, I'm going to say that right now at this moment, even as you're listening to this and watching this, you still might not be sure, you still might not be certain. And if that is the case, give yourself at least another day, with the sun and the moon representing a 24-hour period. Give yourself another day. So I would say, sleep on it. If I was coaching you, and this is a major decision, which has the opportunity to affect both your home life and your business life, sleep on it. And then, pay attention to any dreams or any kind of intuitive guidance you get when you wake up in the morning, and see how do you feel about it 24 hours later than you did 24 hours prior. And again, the only other thing about the clouds for me, it's about, again, clearing up any lingering doubts. With the sun card being all about clarity and illumination, then how can you become more clear? What is it that you still are not sure on, and how can you get more clear on that? I think that's a challenge with the clouds. And also too, about possible challenges with somebody at the top, and how can you best work through those. So that was your line of 5 reading for your question, Michelle. I hope it was helpful, and I would like for you at some point to circle back and let me and the viewers know what you decided and what happened as a result of that decision. So thank you again for the opportunity, Michelle, and thank you again for all your encouragement and your support of the work that I'm doing. And if there's any way that I can continue to support you, please do not hesitate to contact me and let me know. So for my viewers, if you enjoyed this, like it, share it. If you're new here and you'd like to see more content like this, please think about subscribing to my channel so you can get an update every time I post a new video. And if at some point you decide that you'd like to submit a question for a Lenormand card reading, please feel free to either leave me a comment in the comment section below, or send me a message, or send me an email, and I'll have my email in the description box below. And your question could be the next video reading. So again, this is James Himm Mitchell, and I look forward to sharing this space here with you again in my next video. And until then, take care.